No, no, stop. It's not as dramatic as all that. Let's reboot. Okay, we all know there's been a Google Core update in May, and everyone seems to have had their say on what has caused those gains and those drops. But as a wise man said last week, it's all just speculation and personal experience, which is why I asked you lot what your experiences were over the last few days. Now I've collected the data, scoured hundreds of social media posts, garnered other expert opinions, and I've got my own experiences to share too. So let's try and figure this thing out. Now, before we get started, I want to make it very clear that the things that I'm going to talk about today are just my own personal opinions and my own experiences. And I'm certainly not sitting here trying to tell you that I've done everything right and that I know everything. It might just be the case that I've got lucky with my 7 websites that have not been hit, and I'm certainly not trying to accuse anyone of doing things wrong or being lazy on their own websites. And finally, it's also worth mentioning that there has been talk over the last few days that since Google confirmed the update had fully rolled out, that they've started to roll things back. So if that is the case for you, or if you've been hit by the update and you've seen a rollback, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. And generally, I'd just love to hear your own experiences, whether they're positive or negative. So let's get some discussion going down below. Last week, I published a post on the community tab where I asked my subscribers to fill out a form. There were 2 forms, one for sites that had been positively hit and one for sites that had been negatively hit. I actually had twice as many people complete the negatively hit form as filled out the positively hit form. We didn't have a huge amount of people that filled out the form, but I had 11 positives and 22 negatives. So treat this data with a pinch of salt. It's not like we've got hundreds and hundreds of responses, but there was one question in particular that was answered in a very similar way for the sites that got negatively hit. So we'll be talking about that too. We're going to kick things off with content. So I asked people who filled out the form to comment on how they create their content. Now, there were some commonalities here really between the sites that were negatively hit and the sites that were positively hit. In fact, the question around AI content, where I asked people to comment if they used at least 50% AI content on their sites, 18.2% said that they did that for negatively hit sites, but the same for positive. So we can't really take a huge amount from that. It seems like the majority of people write the content themselves, with a smaller percentage using a third-party service, and then a couple of people that use a couple of different techniques or a combination of those that we've listed above. So it's really quite difficult to glean anything from the form for that particular question. But what I think it does do is point to the fact that AI content probably isn't the issue per se. However, I did have a comment from Alice on the post that I put out, and she said, have you read John Dykstra's email? And in his email, he's very much giving his opinion, and he really does believe that Google was targeting AI content and that there was some collateral damage spilling out to sites that didn't use AI content. And he goes further to talk about how the content should be unique and properly unique, not copying the same headings and the same format that other websites are using. And I think there's something interesting in that, and we're going to come back to that later on in the video. The second question I asked was around images, and again there was a bit of a spread here where a lot of people, 63% in the positively impacted section, said that they used premium software such as Canva or Stencil and using the images that are built into that. With negatively hit sites, again that question came out quite high, with 54% of people saying that they used that method. But 31% of people said that they create their own images as graphics or highly edited photographs. And that was for the negatively hit sites, whereas the positively hit 63% of people said that they do that, and 36% of people said that they only use unique images that they have taken. Again, with the negative, the unique images that they have taken was only 13.6%. So if we go back to what we've just said about John Dykstra's email and talking about making content unique, we're not just talking about the written content, we're also talking about the images that are used too. Now, I don't think this, certainly looking at that data and from my own experience, I don't think this is a big, huge factor, but I think it is an influencing factor. And I think the people that are going to the lengths of taking their own images and creating highly unique images from existing photography, I would think that those people are also going further with their written content too. So I think there's something in this. Now, the next question on the form is the one that I'm most excited to share with you, because this is the one that really gave us that one result that was standout to everything else. So let's take a look. And it was regarding link building. Now, this data has changed a little bit the more that people have responded to it, but what hasn't changed is the negatively hit results. And this, I think this is quite a high percentage, that 77.3% of the 22 responses for sites that were negatively hit don't do any dedicated link building. Now, if we look at that in relation to the positively hit sites, it was only 45% of people that said they didn't do any dedicated link building, with the others stating that they use guest posting, manual outreach, some Harrow link building, and then some that have started more recently. Now, historically, backlinks have always been important from a rankings point of view. But it is also something that some people get wrong, that people think is a little bit risky. It's something that can take a great deal of time and also financial resources. And so I completely understand why people don't do it. There are also lots of very prominent YouTubers, and I think of Income School, for example, who advocate an approach whereby you shouldn't necessarily embark on a backlink outreach campaign or buying backlinks and that sort of thing. However, I really do believe that backlinks still plays a huge factor in the way in which websites rank. Now, the question here, I suppose, is, does a website that has more high quality with traffic backlinks have more protection from a Google update than a site that doesn't? Now, I don't know the answer to that question, and obviously there's so many variables involved in that. What I can tell you is that I run backlinking campaigns on all of my affiliate websites, every single one, and none of them got hit. The data there, again, it's limited data, but again, the data there also would suggest that having some form of backlinks might offer you a little bit more protection in these updates. Now, I'm not saying run out and order hundreds of backlinks. That would definitely not be a good thing to do. But I do think it should be or could be part of your strategy, or part of what you should be thinking about as you continue to build out your niche or affiliate websites, or whatever you want to call them. And the last question I asked was to do with expertise, authority and trust. And again, there was a bit of a mix in responses here. For sites that were positively impacted, a quite high percentage, 54% of people said that they were the main face of the website and that they have a clear autobiography, which was quite a stark difference to the negatively hit sites that was just down at 27.3% for them being the main face of the website. The negatively hit sites had a similar percentage in relation to using fake personas, 27.3 on positive and 36 on negative. But 36.4% of the negatively hit sites said that they don't do anything for EAT, whereas that was only down at 18% for the positively hit sites. 27% said that they had an About Us page for Positively Hit, whereas only 18% had an About Us page for the Negatively Hit sites. So again, this is kind of pointing us in the direction that EAT is important, and perhaps site owners who didn't put quite as much focus on EAT have taken a little bit of a hit. I did also ask a question around publishing consistency. There was not too much of a difference here. The Positively Hit sites, 90% of people said that they consistently create new content, whereas 76.2% said that they did with the Negatively Hit sites. So there was a slight difference there, but nothing too big. And a similar percentage said that they also update their content that's over 6 months old. There was a bit of a difference in terms of social profile presence with the Positively Hit and the Negatively Hit. 63.6% of the positively impacted sites said that they had a good social profile presence with profile accounts that linked to the website, whereas only 38.1% did that with the Negatively Hit sites. So like I said, I think take a little bit of that with a pinch of salt because there weren't a huge amount of responses. But I do think we can glean something from that. Now, there were some other things that I noticed too. We've already mentioned the email from John Dykstra, and I also saw a really interesting tweet recently from Niche Site Lady on Twitter, where she discussed an article that she'd worked on, and the amount of effort simply meant that this would be the best piece of unique content on that topic. And I don't think there's any way Google could beat that down. If you're willing to go to those lengths to create your content, to take images of every single product, to get your hands physically on every single thing that you're writing about, to take days or weeks to prepare and plan and write that piece of content, then that is truly unique content. And it is going to provide true value to the reader. And I think between that tweet and John Dykstra's email, and from what I've seen on my own websites, and knowing how much effort and the work that my writers put in, I think there's certainly something to take from that. And the only thing really that I've noticed on some of my sites in terms of taking a bit of a ranking hit is e-commerce type terms. So for example, the term coffee machines. You would expect, if you're searching for that, you would expect probably to be served results that are from e-commerce websites because you're searching for a coffee machine to buy. Some of those terms, or a lot of those terms, seem to have taken a hit with affiliate sites. And I think this is to do with search intent. And I think this is just Google trying to serve the best possible results for each search query. Really, an affiliate site shouldn't be ranking for those terms anyway. But if you stick an affiliate type term in that keyword, so such as best coffee machines or coffee machine reviews, then we start to see affiliate sites. So I don't think, a lot of people have said Google is beating down affiliate sites. I don't really think that is the case, but I do think Google is trying to deliver that best user experience that they've always said they're trying to do. And I think they are trying to stick to what they have published quite openly with the Google product review updates and provide people with high quality information. One area where I think, and again, this comes back to the product review update, and this was mentioned by WP Eagle on his update following the May update, is that if you're only serving Amazon links, or it doesn't have to be Amazon, any kind of affiliate program, if you're only serving one type of destination, then that is probably not giving the user the best experience because you're just pushing people to one place. Now, sometimes you can't help it and there is only one place to push them, but if you can, especially on those buyer's guides, have multiple affiliate programs, I think that is something that you can do. Again, I don't think any of these things on their own in an isolated way are having a huge impact, but I think when you compound all of these things together, then this is where the issues are starting to arise. Now, Alex at WP Eagle also mentioned that he felt his sites that were negatively hit didn't have the best info versus commercial content ratio, and he felt that the sites that were hit were quite heavy on that on those affiliate type pages. Now, this isn't something new. This is something that people have said for a long time. And I think I've come out before and said that I don't buy it. I don't actually think it's as big an issue as people think. And the reason for that is that the majority of my content across a wide range of different niches for my own personal sites do not have a lot of informational content. Now, I'm not saying take away informational content. If you've got it, I think that's fine, as long as it is delivering value. If it's informational content that is just targeting featured snippet, just quick, short question and answers, maybe with 500 word articles or 1,000 word articles, I think that might be an issue for you. But if you've got high quality info content, I think that's absolutely fine. But I genuinely haven't been impacted by this notion of having too much affiliate versus informational content for my own websites. So we're going to summarize now, and it's a tough one. It's a really, really difficult one, because I can't sit here and say that I know what the update was. I can just give you the data that we've seen there, my own experiences, what I've seen and read online, and even now we're still really none the wiser. But what I think we have learned, and certainly I think what I'm taking from this at least, is that there's no shortcuts in this affiliate game. There are no shortcuts, and I think, to be honest, that's a philosophy that I've had from the beginning. You know, I've never thought I want to have a site that's making so much money within 12 months or 18 months. I've always had kind of long-term goals in the back of my head, but I wouldn't put the pressure on myself to say that this site needs to be making this in 6 months. There are no shortcuts. It's hard work. I think there is some truth in the fact that Google are trying to combat AI content and what they deem as low value or non-unique content. I think there is a fair amount of truth in that. Does that mean you can't use AI? No, I don't think it does. I think it's still a perfectly valid tool to use if it works for you. But I think you have to be careful with it, because I think what AI does is it kind of promotes a slightly complacent or a lazier attitude towards generating content. If you're just using it to generate content quicker and publish lots and lots and lots of content, then I think that's probably the wrong use for it. I also think that the use of content optimization tools such as Surfer SEO are probably having some kind of an impact in the way that articles are structured and put together, which could be causing some issues around this idea of having unique content. I don't use Surfer SEO, I don't use content optimization tools. I try and get an idea as to how long my articles should be and the types of things that I want to include, but I wouldn't necessarily just copy the same structure that other sites are using with the same H1s, H2s, H3s, and so on. I think it's fair to say that unique images and videos are more important now than ever before. And if that's something that you have maybe neglected, then I think now is the time to double down on that. I think, like we've mentioned, linking to multiple affiliate sites is best practice and is something that you should be doing. And finally, I think that creating or obtaining in some way high quality, relevant backlinks with good traffic to your website, one, will give you a ranking boost. It will. And two, it might just give you a little bit more protection in those future updates. And that ultimately nothing has changed. Google still wants to reward those websites with the highest quality, most unique and most valuable content for the reader. Guys, this has been a tough one. I hope no one has taken offence at anything that I've said. And really, the next thing that you need to do is you need to watch this video that I made in December around the product review update, because nothing's changed since then, and the guidance in this video is exactly what you need, I think, to try and future-proof your website and give the best possible value that you can. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your projects.